So as you've tracked history over the years, what do you think has transpired with our leather community? Are we thriving? Are we dying? Are we status quo? Have we changed beyond recognition?
Well, we haven't changed beyond recognition. Our core is still the same as it always was. It's about, the infliction of pain on others. And if anybody's good at that, our group certainly is. Sometimes in a scene even. But no, it's... Actually, we haven't changed that much. In fact, there's this, sometimes you'll see people who are trying to be encyclopedic and they try to talk about old guard and new guard. I mean, that's just something some academic dreamed up. That's no reality. I mean, where do you go? If you claim that the 70s is old guard, then is everything else new guard? I mean, what's your next demarcation? And so there is no old guard, new guard, and even the way that they describe, people sometimes describe the 60s and 70s, it wasn't like they're describing it at all. That's what I try to do in Gay San Francisco Eyewitness Drummer, is keep all the people who were players that I knew of and I have in my files and extensive archives, to keep them from falling through the cracks of history. And so bringing that forward, you can see that we haven't changed that much. We still have our underground press, we still have our meetings. Maybe more than anything, there's more gender diversity. I mean, for instance, just like in gay culture itself, the gay parade started out as a gay parade. Now it's an alphabet soup gay parade, LGBTI, etc. And so just as a lot more people have come out of the closet, in the 60s and 70s, a lot of straight people used to use Drummer and other gay leather publications to meet other straight people who were kinky because they had no place to go. There was Justice Weekly and the Eulenspiegel Society, but those weren't quite as much fun, I think, for straight people. They liked to meet with gay people because gay leather men were more open and had better playrooms. And so they would glom onto us, and then they become part of our scene. That's how, for instance, the Society of Janus got involved with Drummer, was because the women in that wanted to find playmates, but they couldn't really find straight guys who were tops, and so they found gay guys who were into S&M who would top them, as part of just being open on our own part, because our leather society is open almost to a fault to include everybody. But that's the great, beautiful thing about leather culture. Leather has an element of blank. You can bring anything into it, fold it in, wrap it up, tie it up, and it works. It fits into some part of the whole pie, to mix metaphors.
So no matter how much things change, they remain the same. They're basically the same.
Yeah, because leather is a response to human nature that is basically censored by mainstream society and even by the queer mainstream that doesn't like us because they think we're too outre, we're too outlaw. Even though by today's thing, by standards that I came out under in the 1950s and 1960s, is pretty tame. Because back then, everything was illegal. For instance, in putting the books together, it's easier. I mean, everywhere you go now, somebody has a camera and they're shooting. Until 1979 or so, you could not even bring a camera into a gay bar or a gay party or any place like that because people would run, because the only people who had cameras around gays were police.
Yeah, true.
So we didn't photograph ourselves because it was incriminating evidence. So now we're more open on a graphic level, and it's spread everywhere. And I think that we're finding that because all this is on the internet, and teenagers who are developing their own sexuality, they can see us for real in a way that teenagers back in the 50s and 60s had to sort of go to a peep show and make their own peep shows, finding little bits of leather and little bits of this novel or in this magazine, and finding who they were what images they were going to bond with, because that spoke to their hearts and their souls and who they were in their own leather identity as it was coming out of them.
Yeah, I remember having a magazine when I was a kid that I kept. It was a straight magazine, porn magazine, because the guy was wearing a wide leather belt.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That was pretty cool.
And we used to have to cling to things like that, just one item in an otherwise straight picture, but now you get the full gay Monty and the full leather Monty any place you want. And so it hasn't changed, it's just gotten more diverse. I wonder if the passion is as heated, because I think the culture war combined with HIV, which inflamed the culture war, has thrown a lot of water on the wild orginess of it all.
Yeah, a lot of people decry that too and say it's not like it used to be. We don't have the openness we used to. We killed all the bathhouses, we killed all the bars. I mean, San Francisco used to have, I don't even know how many bars, and now it has, what, maybe 2 at the most?
Yeah, and bathhouses here and in New York were wonderful. In the 70s, for instance, in the 60s, leather people lived on planes. We didn't live in any particular city. We flew from LA to San Francisco to New York to Amsterdam to London to Madrid, playing in all those places and hitting those leather bars and meeting up with leather people and doing very unsafe things in the sense of going off with strangers and
Sure.
and doing stuff. But that was part of the
Wasn't
thrill.
that part of the thrill? Yeah.
Absolutely. And now that thrill is gone because, I mean, it's like anonymous sex is so glorious and gorgeous, and it's too bad that that's pretty much gone, because if you're having sex with somebody and you know nothing about them, they are everything that you want them to be, and they're everything to you that they want to be to you. You don't know that they don't pay their phone bill, that they don't eat right. You don't. There's none of that domestic baggage, and so that was a glorious time, and it allowed you to do things with these strangers. So there was a very positive upside to that as well.
Should we be sad that that time doesn't exist anymore?
Oh, well, that's like crying over spilled milk, because the clock ticks, the calendar rips the pages off, and time goes by, and those times are gone. I mean, when I was a teenager, the big hot time in the past was the Roaring 20s. Now, that there's the same difference between today and the 1960s and 70s as there was between me and the 1920s. So, I mean, I thought, well, gee, it'd be nice if we could do that, or I even used to think, oh, God, Roman orgies. And then I found out you could have American orgies, and that was so much even more of a treat, because you could be part of an American orgy.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you think drummer was killed by the internet.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that...
Well, besides the greed of the owners.
Well, of course. It's always great. But there's a lot of people out there that think the internet has killed our leather scene. What do you think about that?
Yes, because I've been dealing with somebody recently who is a very heavy leather player, and he's now reached a point in his health that he cannot go out and do what he wants to do, and I've had to help him transpose his desire from going out and cruising for a leather guy or going out and hiring a leather top to going to the internet. I had to give him a whole bunch of links and tell him you can even use chat, the new chatroulette.com.
Oh, right.
Where you just get on there and get dressed up like you want, and it's like speed dating with everybody on the planet. A 16-year-old in Russia dreamed this up 6 weeks ago, and it's now the latest hot thing. But so he's gotten dressed up in his leather, and he's gotten on chat roulette, and he's now meeting people on that, and he's finding out that that's beginning to satisfy him, considering that the life he lived no longer exists. So a transposition kind of helps, but I do think it keeps a lot of people at home when they should be out socializing and getting to know other people with hands-on, flesh-to-flesh, eyeball-to-eyeball kind of contact.